Hi all, today we are going to discuss about different types of errors. So why should we read the different type of errors? So we know as the measurement cannot be made with perfect accuracy, so it is necessary to know the reason for the errors so that proper precautions can be taken to reduce them. So what is the reason for getting different type of errors is already discussed previously. So those errors can be categorized into three categories so that we can make the analysis easy. So first one is the gross error, and the second one is systematic error, and the third one is called as the random error. Let us see which one comes under which category and how to overcome them. So first one is called as the gross error. The gross error, these covers the errors due to human mistakes in reading the instruments, recording and calculating the measurement results. That means the gross errors are mainly dealing with the errors, that mistakes that are done by the human beings or the errors made by the experimenter while taking the readings. These are due to the mistakes of the experimenter while taking the readings. So these can be different things, like experimenter may grossly misread the scale. Let us take for example, due to oversight while taking the reading, sometimes because of the tiredness or the oversight. So let us assume the reading is actually indicating there as 41.5 volts. So instead while taking the reading, he take it as a 31.5 volts. That means he has just confused with the upper digit. So these type of mistakes can happen due to oversight, or he will read the reading properly, but while recording it or writing on a sheet, he may make the mistake. Let us take for example, he read the reading as 27.5 volts, which is the correct value, but while recording this, he may record it wrongly as a 25.7. That means some digits are interchanged while making the recording of this data. Or sometimes after recording the data, we have to make some calculations to get the final value. He can make mistakes in the calculations. So all these comes under the category of gross errors. Because these gross errors are due to the human mistake, they cannot be avoided and they cannot be anticipated before. So that's why they cannot be analyzed mathematically. So how to overcome them? Because they cannot be represented by a specific formula, so we cannot represent it like an error so that we will add to the measured value and get the actual value. That is not possible here because this is random. So the solution for this one is great care should be taken in reading and recording the data. So every time while reading the data, he should be very cautious. Our second option is more reading should be taken for the same quantity under measurements by different experimenters. That means that different people can read the same reading. If all are getting the same value, it is fine. If all are getting the different value, that means some of them is making the mistake. They can take care and resolve the issue. So this is the only solution that is available for gross errors. So if that error, whatever is happening, can be represented mathematically, or which can be exactly calculated and the error can be corrected, those are called as systematic errors. The name itself is telling systematic. So again, this systematic error I can divide into three categories: instrumental errors, environmental errors and observational errors. So let us take one by one. So first one is the instrumental errors. The name itself is telling these errors are mainly due to the characteristics of the instruments and they follow some proper rule. So we can calculate the error and rectify them also. So these are due to inherent shortcomings in the instruments. This can be due to the construction, calibration or operation of the instruments. So for example, this can be due to either friction, hysteresis, gear backlash, etc. So let us take one example to understand much more clearly. If I am taking the spring, because if you take any instrument like moving iron or moving coil type of instruments, generally the spring is provided to provide the required controlling torque. So let us assume if the spring become weak with respect to time, so automatically the controlling torque will decrease. So when the controlling torque will decrease for a given input, the instrument will always show the more value than the actual value. Getting it? Or something can happen like this: the spring loses its property, it gets rusted. In that case, it will not follow a proper rule, but we can still predict it mathematically. So these errors can be eliminated by periodic inspection and calibration of the instruments. So what we do, periodically we have to test our instruments and check whether the reading is coming properly or not. We can compare with the standard instrument and do the calibration once again. Or if you observe that the error is of constant magnitude, we can do the zero adjustment. Let us take for example, I want to measure from 0 to 10 amperes. At every reading, let us assume if actual value is 1 ampere, it is measuring as 1.2. Similarly, if actual value is 10 amperes, it is measuring 10.2 amperes. That means there is a constant error of 0.2. That means whatever the measured value is there, we have to subtract that constant value. So it is known. So these type of errors are called as instrumental errors. So next one is misuse of the instruments. So these are due to not using the instrument according to the condition mentioned by the manufacturer. Let us take for example, so some instrument is provided. So if you take an instrument, generally the instrument range is provided from 0 to 10 amperes. 0 to 10 amperes, and another scale is also provided. That means same instrument is having two ranges. Another one is 0 to 1 ampere. 0 to 1 ampere. So let us assume the reading which I want to measure is less than 1 ampere. Let us assume the reading which I want to measure is, for example, 0.5 amperes. So 0.5 ampere should be actually measured by this lower scale. Accordingly, here these tappings will be provided, which tappings we have to connect. So let us assume by mistake the operator has connected between the first one, that means connected to 10 amperes range. So in the 10 amperes range, we cannot measure the 0.5 amperes properly. So this I have already discussed in our previous lectures. So always the reading should be taken in such a way, or instrument should be taken such that whatever the reading we want to make, that should be in the top 1/3 of the reading, or at least it should not be in the lower 1/3 readings of your scale. So he has selected it wrongly. So this is called as misuse of the instrument. So another example is, let us assume my current is 10 amperes. I connect to 0 to 1 amperes range. So when you connect like that, what will happen? Your instrument will short circuit and your instrument may damage. Or let us assume if it is a voltmeter, so it may short circuit your supply itself and your supply may damage. So this also comes under misuse of the instrument. Similarly, as we have to connect our whatever we want to measure, we have to take the leads and connect to these terminals. Let us assume that leads are having the high resistance, or they are not connected properly and having the contact resistance. So these are called as misuse of the instrument. So for this, what we have to do? We have to take the proper care that they are operated only according to the conditions they are designed for. And the third type of error will be due to the loading effect, and loading effect is already discussed separately in a separate lecture. We have seen that the loading effect will be there due to the instrument. Let us take for example the voltmeter. So voltmeter is connected across the supply. So always the resistance of the voltmeter should be greater than the equivalent resistance at the points, or the Thevenin equivalent resistance up to that point where you are measuring. Then only loading effect will be less. Otherwise loading effect will be dominating. Similarly, if you are going for series connected instruments such as ammeter, the resistance should be as minimum as possible in order to avoid the loading effect. So accordingly precaution should be taken. Now the next one will be environmental errors. So these are due to conditions external to the measuring device. So such as external temperature, pressure, humidity, dust, vibrations, external magnetic or electrostatic fields. These will affect the reading of our instrument. So what we have to do? We have to make the proper corrective measures for eliminating these undesirable effects. So let us take for example, the condition should be maintained constant. For example, the temperature can be maintained constant by keeping equipment in a temperature controlled enclosure. Or second one, using the equipment which is immune to the effects of external factors. Like for example, if you are using the resistance material which are having low temperature coefficient of resistance, so that the resistance will not change with temperature. It is immune to the temperature. Similarly, employing the techniques which eliminate the effect of these disturbances. Let us take for example the dust, humidity, etc. These factors can be eliminated by properly sealing your meter. That means hermetically sealing the enclosure. And similarly, we can avoid the effect of this electrostatic and magnetic effects, external field effects, by providing the proper shield for these things. Electrostatic and magnetic shields may be provided to avoid the external interference due to the external fields. So next one is observational errors. Observation errors, these are due to parallax error on account of the pointer and scale and not being on the same plane. So to understand this, let us take an example. This is a meter. You can see here that there is a gap between the pointer and the scale. Because of this gap, because both are not on the same plane, whenever you are taking the reading, if a person is seeing from the side, you can see actually it is at 0, but as you are seeing from the side, it is showing some place before 0. It is indicating that there is a 0 error. It is not at 0. So this is called as a parallax error. So how we can avoid the parallax error? In order to avoid the parallax error, what will be there? Generally we provide a mirror in the scale. You can see there will be a mirror will be provided on this. So whenever you take the reading, you will take the reading in such a way your shadow of your pointer should not be visible to you. That means you have to take the reading from the top in such a way the shadow of this scale or this pointer is not visible to you. That indicates you are not making any parallax error. So using this, that problem can be avoided. That's why you can see that all high precision instruments which you see in your lab will have one mirror like this. So while taking the reading, how you have to take? You have to take in such a way your pointer, that shadow will not be visible to you. So then we tell that parallax error is avoided. So next type of error is called as random or residual error. So these errors are due to multitude of small factors which change or fluctuate from one measurement to another. That means they doesn't come in any of the previous two categories. So these are the combination of small different type of errors which are uncontrollable and unpredictable. They will change from every reading to reading. So sum of all these readings together, all these errors together, they are called as random errors. Because they are randomly happening, that's why they are called as random errors. So same thing I have mentioned here, happening of these errors are random in nature and hence called as random errors. So since these errors remain even after the systematic errors have been taken care, that means you have taken care that no systematic error or the gross error is there, still some error will be there always. So as this error is remaining after removing all the known errors, that's why they are called as residual, because they are remaining. So that's why they are called as residual errors. So these residual errors can be analyzed using the statistical analysis. So for statistical analysis, I am not going into deep analysis. You have studied in mathematics and this itself is a very big topic if you go inside. So I am only discussing what are required for GATE or IES only, so that the basic things will be clear to you. So today we will see the concepts and tomorrow we will see the numericals that came in previous IAS exams related to this statistical analysis or random error analysis. So let us see the basic things that are required for this statistical analysis. So first thing is to make the statistical analysis a meaningful large number of measurements should be required. So measurements should be as more as possible in order to make the proper statistical analysis. And before going for the analysis using the statistical methods, so all known errors from the data such as known systematic effect, calibration, etc. should be removed first before applying the statistical methods, as they are based on loss of change and not on consistent factors. That means whatever the consistent factors are there in your data, because consistency will be there in these systematic errors, so those systematic errors should be completely removed and then only we can apply the statistical methods for analyzing the random errors. Or otherwise, if you know that the systematic errors are very less compared to random errors, then in that case we can directly apply on the data. So the statistical analysis allows us to determine the best possible value from the given data, and we can also set the limits of uncertainty. Within the set limits of uncertainty, what will be the predictable value of the actual value of the measurement from the data. So that can be easily calculated by using statistical analysis. So in order to make the statistical analysis, some basic things are required. First one is the arithmetic mean. Arithmetic mean means it is the sum of the values of all the samples. Let us assume I am taking n number of samples or n number of readings. So take the sum of all the readings divided by n. That means we are taking the sum of all the readings divided by n. This is called as arithmetic mean. So then comes a deviation from the mean. We got the mean. So how much each sample is deviated from that mean value, that is called as a deviation from the mean. So if you have a set of readings like x1, x2, etc. up to xn with a mean value of x bar, the deviations of the individual reading will be like deviation of x1 will be, I am representing deviation by d. So d of the first sample, that means d1 will be equal to, so first sample value minus mean value, so x1 minus x. Similarly, deviation of x2 will be x2 minus x and so on. So you can see here, because this x1, x2, these values can be more or less than the mean value. So that's why the deviation can be either positive or negative. So, but if you are taking the sum of all the deviations including their sign, then you will observe that your sum will be equal to 0. You can cross check tick by making the sum of the values. So then comes the average deviation, which is represented by capital D. So average deviation is sum of only the magnitude of the deviations. You should not take the sign, you have to take the magnitude only. That means remove the sign of the deviations, then take the sum divided by number of samples. So that gives the average deviation. So the average deviation indicates that any other deviations are there from your data, or otherwise if this average deviation is 0, that indicates that all the readings shown are of the same value, or if the average deviation is less, it indicates that all the readings are within a small range. So that's why this average deviation gives the indication of precision of your instrument. So smaller value of D indicates higher precision. So that is what we have to observe. So then comes the standard deviation. It will be equal to, so square root of each deviation you have to take square divided by number of samples. It is nothing but sigma d square divided by number of samples. And this formula can be applied only if the number of samples are very large. But in practice, generally we cannot take infinite number of samples, and we take the readings generally less than 20. So if your number of readings are less than 20, this formula will be modified to, instead of this sigma we will write as S. S is equal to square root of sigma d square. So sum of the d square divided by, instead of n we have to write n minus 1. You have to observe this in the numerical. If the data is given having the less than 20 samples, you have to take n minus 1 in the denominator. Only that is the difference you have to observe. So there is another term called as variance. Variance will be nothing but mean square deviation, or it is square of the standard deviation. So variance is generally used when you have the multiple standard deviations, that means multiple readings, and you want to take the sum of the deviations of those things. So in that case, we cannot add the square root of values, but if they are variance, we can directly add them. That is the advantage. But the advantage of standard deviation is that you are taking the square root of the square of the terms. So that's why it will have same units as your original sample value. That means, let us assume the sample each one is in volts, then your standard deviation also will be in volts, but variance will be in volt square. That is the difference. So now comes standard deviation of the mean. Standard deviation of the mean will be nothing but standard deviation divided by square root of n. Similarly, standard deviation of the standard deviation, another term will be there, which is nothing but standard deviation divided by square root of 2n, or simply this is nothing but standard deviation of the mean divided by square root of 2. So in this way we can calculate. So with this basic terminology that is required, let us go to the analysis. After making the statistical analysis, the results are expressed as deviations about a mean value. Generally, the deviations are expressed as follows. Let us take, for example, I tell standard deviation limit. Standard deviation means from the mean value x bar, so that result is within plus or minus standard deviation value. That means the error limit in this case is the standard deviation, which means 68.28%. That means 2/3 of all the readings have the values between these limits of plus or minus the standard deviation. Or we can tell that there is 68.28% probability that our new reading will be within this limit. So similarly, there will be plus or minus 2 standard deviation limit. 2 times standard deviation means it will be mean plus or minus 2 times of standard deviation. 95% of the readings lies in this range. Similarly, if you take x, that means mean plus or minus 3 times of standard deviation, 99.7% of the readings lies in this range. But in practice or in the competitive exam, generally they ask calculate the probable error. So probable error means it is expressed as the mean plus or minus r, where this value of r will be 0.6745 times of standard deviation. So x plus or minus 0.6745 times of standard deviation, it indicates that 50% or half of all the readings lies within the limits. That means there is an even chance that any one observation will be within these limits. So practically I have seen in the competitive exams, they have asked to calculate the probable error. How to calculate the probable error? First you have to calculate the mean, calculate the standard deviation. So then you can tell that x bar plus or minus 0.6745 times of standard deviation. So using this I can calculate the probable error. So the numericals that came in the previous competitive exams, particularly IAS exams, so I am going to discuss in detail in the next class, because that numerical takes about half an hour. So I hope everything is clear up to now. If you still have any queries, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. I will answer to your queries from there. Thank you very much.